Welcome to Mark My Words, a show that searches for the fork in the road in life, the place where the turning point in the journey of entrepreneurship and life can be found. Let's meet each other at the crossroads on Mark My Words. This episode is sponsored by GrowX Labs. Quick question. When you're leading a team or growing a business, who helps you think clearly? GrowX Labs offers executive decision support, real-time access to a trusted strategist who helps you navigate tough calls, leadership blind spots, and everything in between. No fluff, no long-term commitment, just fast, honest insight from someone who gets it. If you're a founder or exec and need a sounding board, go to growxlabs.com/mark. That's grwxlabs.com/mark and book a discovery call today. Regardless of whether you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur delegating to a lot of people on your staff, I have a feeling that today's guest, Anna Brambilla, which hopefully I said with the right zest, Anna.
Close. Anna Brambilla. Yeah, it's an
Brambilla.
Italian. Yep.
Yeah, I'm so consumed with getting the accent on that right. So thank you
Totally
for correct.
fine. Of course. No, I mean, well, I'm sure with your name too, you get things that people can't spell your name or add a C or take. I mean, yeah. Anyway, I totally get it. Not a problem. Thank you.
No problem. All the time with the name of Marc. And just to continue on with my intro here, so Anna is the founder and CEO of Virtually Aligned, and I'll just read some of her texts for everybody because one of the reasons that she founded Virtually Aligned, and much like her last name, I'll let her step in and summarize and correct me as we go along, but she has a passion for virtual assistants and she has a great story behind it. And basically, what her LinkedIn tells us is you don't have to do it all alone. At Virtually Aligned, they help coaches and solopreneurs focus on clients and growth instead of admin. The right virtual assistant gives you back time, clarity, and energy so you can elevate your impact. With aligned support, you'll finally have the freedom to focus on the work only you can do and grow your business with confidence. And that right there, I feel, ties into something I feel Anna is also passionate about, which is the zone of genius. And if you don't know what that is without the help of looking it up on Google, it's a state of operating where your unique talents, natural gifts, and deepest passions align, allowing you to work effortlessly and creatively. Certainly not a definition I came up with. I had the help of technology, but we've already heard from Anna. Welcome to Mark My Words. How you doing today?
I'm so well. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am very excited to have you here, and I try with every episode and every guest that I pick out, I try to meticulously pick out people that I feel can provide real value to not only to me but to the audience. And I feel like what you do is something that will provide a ton of value to everybody. And I can't wait to get into that. But as I warned you before we hit record, I like going back to the past and getting in the DeLorean, the Wayback Machine, and uh, it looks like you not only majored in management and economics, but management and finance. I guess they're pretty close. BA in one, MBA in the other. And was this something that you had a passion for growing up? Was there anything else you envisioned doing when you were growing up?
Well, if you want to go way back, when I was 4 years old, there was a minor fire in the house. Everything's fine, everybody's fine. But the joke is, I don't remember it, but when I was 4 years old, I said, I want to be a fire truck when I grow up. So I was creative then, I guess, you know. It's interesting. I'm 50, what am I, 57 now, and I finally feel like I know what I want to be when I grow up. And something that you never know, right? I always liked business. I always liked making money. I always liked having money. I like spending money. And so business was that through line, but also working with people. The joke was with my family is that if I couldn't find a person to talk to, I'd start talking to a tree. So I just love people and relationships and connecting people. So that's sort of the through line that I see now looking back, right? At the time, I don't think we always see that in ourselves.
It's funny you say all that. I tell the story a lot on this show of when I was around the same age of your fire. I was really enamored with television and was really fascinated with like how they like scheduled shows and how they scheduled stuff. This is like back in the 80s, and I was like really I would like take apart black and white TVs that we had that we weren't really using much just to like look inside of them. And I think I knew from a pretty young age, like what kind of work. Now, I didn't realize, and I've come a long way as far as like being a podcast hosts or getting on camera. That part is a whole other story. I think for a variety of reasons, my mindset was I'm going to be a technical person. Nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody wants to hear from me. I've come a long way with that, but it's weird that I had that passion early on, and then I like questioned that like a
Yeah,
ton, even
yeah.
though I think you could say my zone of genius was telling me something pretty early on in life, and plus, and then some. I've learned a lot since.
Isn't that
Uh,
neat?
yeah. No, it's amazing how much you can learn and just the journey of life where it takes you.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it's taking you here today, oddly enough.
I'm I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Yeah. I was having a conversation recently with a friend of mine who's known me for a few years and knew sort of. But she said, "How did you start off here and go here, right? How did where's that?" And on the surface, like, my first professional job out of college was basically as a financial analyst. And how did I go from being a financial analyst, which frankly, spoiler alert, I was not very good at, to ending up as an entrepreneur working with virtual assistants? And, on paper, it looks like a huge leap, but in reality, it was a step by step by step process. And, talking about being in your zone of genius, there's a through line in everybody's story, which is necessary, but it can take different forms in different situations in different places. So yeah.
Yeah, something similar happened to me, and I think the picture you're trying to paint is very similar to the picture I try to paint when I talk about my journey,
Yeah.
because there came a point where I'm working through corporate America. And in my mind, entrepreneurship is just for like, I don't know, the Bill Gates of the
Yep.
world. I
Yep.
always,
Yep.
easiest example I can pull out of my head. But I always felt like that's what entrepreneurship was and who that was for. And I didn't realize until I was at a company, really awesome company for 10 years. And this is right out of college. They wound up in one of the many reorganizations. They're still reorganizing today.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I took a buyout package and I walked away from being a manager where a role I learned like a ton about myself. It was a real growth opportunity. And from that point on, when I went back to doing more regular, non managerial work, I found myself just not feeling very fulfilled from doing it, which is how I wound up here today. And I feel like if it wasn't for that promotion, I might not be doing any of this. So it's
Yeah.
amazing how just one thing can just lead to another and another. And here you are talking to me on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yes, exactly. No, I completely agree. And it's nice, I mean, I'm sure you're going to go into my story a little bit, but as I mentioned, I was a financial analyst, and frankly, I was god awful at it. I mean, really bad. And so I got laid off or fired, a couple of times because it was just like, what the heck, lady? And it wasn't fun at the time. You don't like hearing that news, but now in retrospect, I'm like, "Oh, thank God." You know? So grateful that I got out of that. I'm so grateful that I got slapped across the face saying, "What the heck, lady? You don't belong here." So, and it set me up for who I am now and where I got here.
Well, you're in good company because I am absolutely horrible at math. There's a reason that I work in television because I am terrible at math. Now, did you feel kind of like obligated, like taking that path was just something that you needed to do, that was expected? Because I know I had a parent who they I think they were a little confused as to why I wanted to take a path that was a little bit unconventional rather
Mhm.
than going into business or something mathematical. And I just had to drive the message home that, look, this is not like who I am. I'm not good at this. I'm going to get fired from like every single job if I take this path. And
Yeah.
I think it sounds like, you can answer for yourself, but it sounds to me like this is an example of what might happen if you take a path that just isn't within your wheelhouse.
Yeah, well, going back to the family, I mean, I grew up with my mother and technically my stepfather, but I call him dad. And my dad was and still is actually at 88 or whatever he is. He was a professor and, brilliant man, PhD in the sciences. My mother was a teacher. And so the idea of business was anathema to them. It's like, oh, that's bad. But I felt it in my bones. And I think even unfortunately, we've lost my mother many years ago, but I think even to this day, my father is like, I don't get what you do. And I
Eh,
tried to explain it to him multiple times. And he knows what the word entrepreneur means, but I think beyond that. So I charted my own path and I said, no, this is who I am. This is what I want to be, and I'm glad, because I got to where I am now. But it was a lot of oh, oh crap moments. It was a lot of like, oh shoot, what am I going to do now, kind of things. And again, glad that I'm at where I'm at now, but it's not easy.
well, just for the record, I appreciate your professionalism. I don't swear too much, but swearing is totally fine on this show if you want to let
You
loose.
Yeah, no, I try not to swear because it's, it's lack of professional, but every now and then there's a certain word that's the only thing that fits in that situation, so good to know, thank you.
Yeah, we try to make the guests feel at home here on
I
Mark My
appreciate
Words.
that.
So I I kind of sense, oh my gosh, she's censoring herself a lot here. I want her to feel comfortable. So
Thank you.
anywho, I would be curious to just find out, and you can tell the story of, you're working, things aren't working out, then you kinda, it seems like you start finding your way a little bit. What was like the turning point or the fork in the road where you said, I want to start my own business? I think I can do this.
It wasn't until well, okay, so as I mentioned, I started off in finance, was awful at it, did software project management, was okay at it, and then, I did then I got laid off, and it was the 2000s, and I'm like, "I don't know what to do." And I'm trying to remember the details. Then I realized with all of my getting laid off or fired, I knew how to find a job really well. I got that down pat. And so I moved into outplacement and did, and finally for the first time found myself. I love being a consultant. I love not having a fixed boss, all of that stuff, and did that for years and loved it and was great at it. And then got bored because, ADHD, I get bored easily and says, okay, it's time to pivot. Went and became a recruiter and had a boss again and all of that stuff. Realized pretty quickly, actually, even before then, when I was in finance, somebody told me, Anna, you're unmanageable. And at the time, I didn't like hearing that. Looking back, oh, thank God. That was the message that I needed to hear. And that sort of played in my mind over and over and over again. So did went into recruiting and was so good at it and loved that connection and that matchmaking. That's the through line. I love being that professional matchmaker, not in a romantic sense. That's above my pay grade, but helping people match people and resources. And loved it. And then the dot com or whatever they were calling it at the time 2008 happened and got laid off. Took some time off. My son was newborn, and it was time. It was nice to be with him. And so, and then I remember vividly when I got laid off, I was like, I'm never having a boss again. I'm just not having a boss again. So I think that was the trigger that I was going to be an entrepreneur or a consultant of some sort, not having a boss. And then decided to go back to work and found a job as a relocation consultant and loved it. Again, consulting and again, helping people. And again, doing that matchmaking because people were coming, didn't know where to live, they didn't know how to open a bank account, especially if they were international, all that stuff. And then got bored with that because, again, I get bored easily. I recognize that about myself and tried to be an entrepreneur for about 2 seconds and said, "Oh my god, this is way more than I can handle and way more than I wanna do." Happened upon franchising, and franchising at the time was, for me, the perfect mix of owning my own business. I didn't have a boss, but I was given a business in a box, and so that was really helpful. So I got to do things this is how you do that. And I actually lasted that for almost 8 years, which is still shocking to me. It's like, "Oh, wow," more than just 2 or 3 years. It's great. Along the way I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I was just gonna say along
No,
the way,
you're good.
that's where I discovered virtual assistants. And when it became clear it was time for me to leave the franchise that I was part of, I'm like, "Well, what can I do next?" And I was then ready, and I am now ready to be an entrepreneur in the true sense of the word and own my own business and make all the decisions. Again, if you had told me back when I was graduating from college with a degree in MBA, so anyway, with a college degree or doing a financial analyst that I'd end up being an entrepreneur. I've been like, you're on drugs.
Well, you're in good company on this show because I feel like just about everybody that I've talked to has had kind of like that same uh, sense of resourcefulness. And
Hmm.
I don't know if anybody has ever said they're unmanageable, but definitely, because even though I still work in corporate America today, the situation that I'm in is 1,000% ideal because I have a boss who's like a really cool boss, but
Nice.
they give us a lot of like autonomy and they, I feel like they kind of like want us to be a bit resourceful within the work that we do. And it's also a situation where I can make my own office hours. So I can go
Nice.
into the office when I want. Now, I pretty much start at the same time every day, but even that has a little bit of wiggle room. Like, it's very, very ideal for somebody like me and not a lot of us have that luxury. And I know that when I was working, when the world was a little bit different and it was more 9 to 5, you had to be at the office. I know I myself could feel, and even to this day, even though I have a wonderful situation, I still feel that pull of like, I like to run the show and I like to
Hmm.
run my
Hmm.
own thing and I want to kind of like create my own destiny, which I think is what most entrepreneurs, if not hopefully all, are aiming to do or succeeding at doing. So I feel like just hearing you talk about how you got mixed up and everything, like you definitely have a passion, which is something you need to have in order to just keep going and to
Yes.
dust yourself off during the bad times because when we have a conversation like this and somebody's listening or watching, it may sound pretty easy, but it can be a challenge. There are challenges that come up and it can get discouraging. And this is where you being on this show comes in because I myself have thought a lot about whether I should like hire an assistant. And of course, that costs money, and there's a lot that goes into that. And I know there's a lot of people who have trouble letting go. And I know everything that I'm saying is presenting like 10 different questions here. But I guess where we can start is you got into coaching and, you did the recruiting and you love people, kind of like how I learned that I love meeting people through doing this, and it really energizes me. Uh, when did you pick up on the fact? I know you said that there came a point where it the concept of running your own business was like, whoa, this is a lot. It's a little overwhelming. When did it like click that you should be a person to help others to just make their world and their business easier with what you're doing?
Well, it's an interesting. So I owned a franchise and it was going very well, but my zone of genius is not doing admin. It is not doing emails and follow up and tracking and updating my CRM. That's not my zone of genius. And I was frankly hating my business more and more and more because I was doing all of that stuff. And so somebody told me, "Hey, you can hire a virtual assistant." And I thought, okay. So I looked out and hired a former client. And note to you and to all your listeners, never hire a former client. Nothing against her, nothing against me. It's just a weird dynamic. And so had to let that go, try to find a VA in the US and just found it cost prohibitive. And so somebody told me about VAs in the Philippines, and I said, "Well, let me check it out." Found a phenomenal VA who's still with on my team now, what, 7 years, 6, 7 years later. Just said, "Oh, I this is what I want. I wanna do the things that only I can do and that I want to do." I didn't know to call it the zone of genius at the time. That was a different that came later. But I realized I just lit up when I was doing the things that I love to do. And my VA lit up when she was doing all that admin that I hated to do. It's one of those things that neither of us could imagine doing what the other person does, right? She would hate to have done my work and I would have hated to do hers. But I said, you know what? There's something here. There is there's a business opportunity. So I created a little business that quickly grew into a pretty big business of providing that same level of admin support to other people who own the same franchise. And it was a game changer for them. They're like, "Oh, I fall in love with my business again. I like what I'm doing. This is great." And so it worked out really well, and I created that business and ended up supporting 60 other owners of the same franchise. And I now have a team of 20 virtual assistants over the Philippines doing various things, and I love empowering them to be in their zone of genius. There is one of my. It's just fascinating. I just love how that works out.
Well, one thing you will learn if you decide to take on the journey of running your own business, you will one way or another learn what your zone of genius is and what your zone or zones of genius are not. I know after 6 years of doing this that oddly enough, I mean, when I started doing this show, I didn't know that it was going to go for 6 years plus. I had no
Yeah.
idea. I I got encouraged from people between the time I left that awesome job until 2020, where I met people who encouraged me and gave me the support that I needed to get to where I am now. There's no way I never ever thought that this was like something that I could be good at. And I know that whenever, not to come on here, I try not to be egotistic or toot my own horn, but I know more and more at the end of these episodes, I get a lot of really great feedback. I get guests who are trying to campaign to come back on the show. And not only does that make me feel good, but
Yeah.
it just reinforces and it tells me, okay, I'm doing something right. And that's
Yeah.
like exactly what you want to learn. Now, things that I have learned that either I'm not good at or I'm not passionate about, that's where it's more, oddly enough, a little more like behind the scenes. And that's all stuff that I'm still racking my brain about, thinking about, because if you're going to hire people, there could be costs that comes into that. And I know I get a ton of requests from just independent folks who are like, hey, your SEO is not very good. And they're pulling out the red graphics to highlight things I already know and all that kind of stuff. And,
Hmm.
what you get faced with a lot of like, should I go that route? Should I not go that route?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I would love to just give you a little bit of time to talk about because I feel like what you're doing is an awesome service. So I'd love to hear and hopefully give some encouragement to others who face kind of like the same thing. And for you to just tell everybody why virtually aligned is different from everybody who's coming along trying to sell something and it's like, you're not giving me enough information, or why are you putting all this red all over my
Right.
YouTube screenshot? Have you seen or come across stuff like this?
All the time, and even on LinkedIn, right? I get these, I get coaches, it's all empty promises, right? And it's all clearly copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, and that is a total anathema for me. That's exactly who I don't want to be. I never want to be the copy paste. I want to be that deep matchmaker. Who are you? What are you looking for? What's important to you? And then find the person that's going to help you with that. And so when we do our outreach, I try very hard to really go into that profile and see and make sure that there's, some connection there that makes them feel seen and heard. And so, yeah, I get that all the time. I totally understand. And that's what we're trying to compete against, so to speak. But what makes us so different, right? Because we are a different methodology, we're a different mentality, we're a different type of company. It's not, so just for example, we help you hire your VA directly. So you own that relationship. They become a part of your team. They become one of your employees. It's not like a VA agency where, and I've worked with VA agencies. In my past, I've had interactions, shall we say, with VA agencies. And I know for a fact that they're paying the VAs $2 to $3 an hour and charging me $20, $30 an hour and keeping the rest. And they're not treating their VA correctly. And when that happens, I get turnover like you wouldn't believe. I get VAs. Oh, today's your VA is A, and tomorrow it's Y, and the next day it's C. And there's no consistency, and there's no nothing, and you lose that intellectual, not the intellect, you lose that connection and that institutional memory. That's what I was trying to think of. And so I created Virtually Line to change all of that. I want to create those deep relationships between the client, the entrepreneur, the coach, the solopreneur, whoever it is, and their VA. I want to find that person who's going to be their second brain and really own the relationship and the VA wants to help with the business. It becomes their business as much as the client's. And I found that the way to do that is to do what we call direct placement. I help you find your ideal person who's really going to connect with you and partner with you. And it's more than just tasks. I mean, yes, absolutely, in skill sets, and it's helpful. You want somebody who's got some. Say you're trying to do SEO, for example, and you need somebody. We look for somebody who's got deep SEO experience. We're not just going to send you somebody who's just been an admin. But it's also the deeper. Who are you? What's your personality, and who's the right kind of admin that's going to be helpful for you? So I love what I do, and I love the team that I work with, and I love the clients. I believe in creating win-win-win solutions. So if you can see over my shoulder, I have a picture of a heart shape or ripple effect, and that's my entire philosophy of life. I want to be that little drop that makes differences in the world that I have no idea how. I'm sure that my activity. In fact, I know that for a fact because I created that business 7 years ago. I made so many people happier in their work, and they were able to help their clients, who were able to help their customers, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's I could go on for hours about that, as you could tell.
No, I love it, and I think that's really what we're all aspiring to do. We just want to be that ripple effect. I know I do, and I see, like, just from doing this, I see the effect that it has on myself, on others, and it's a personal ripple effect. It's a ripple effect that goes outward. And that's, I feel like that is something that is missing for a lot of people. Just the ability to feel that impact. And not everybody is meant to, put themselves out there or to lead or to manage. But I think we all want to feel a sense of fulfillment and want to use our zone of genius. And I think creativity uh,
Mhm.
plays
Mhm.
into that a lot. I think a lot of people don't realize how creative that they are. Like, we're
Yeah.
all creative. I know some people are like, oh, I do math. I'm not creative. No, everybody is creative and everybody has that thing that, as you always put it, the zone of genius. And I
I was
think
just gonna
that
say
is,
that.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah. A lot of people come to me, or I've learned from people, I don't have a zone of genius. Every single one of us has a zone of genius. We may not know it. We may not know how to find it. We may not be able to recognize it, but every single one of us has that. I mean, when I was in financial analyst, for example, right, or software project manager, I thought, zone of genius, that's for other people. And I just hadn't discovered it yet. And I think, frankly, in my case, it changes. When I was a franchise business owner, that was my zone of genius. I loved it. I was good at it. It was something that I loved doing, but that's evolved. And I don't want to do that anymore. And so my zone of genius, I mean, there's always that underlying current. For me, again, it's matchmaking, it's people, it's relationships. Increasingly, it's speaking and podcasts and, things like that. But it was always there, but it takes on different forms.
if you would have asked me like 20 years ago what my zone of genius was, I don't even think I would have been able to answer that.
Yeah.
It's really just, I think for some people, they pick it up and figure it out a little earlier in life. And I'm not really sure. It could be environmental, be how they're getting raised. It could just be that, you know, they were just lucky enough to figure it out. But I almost feel like you have to live some life and go through some things in order to find it, because I for one know what was it, like almost 40 years until I started really doing anything like this. And granted, we didn't really have podcasting or these kind of online opportunities 20, 25 years ago, or
Mhm,
maybe I would
mhm.
have done it back then. But who knows if I would have done it this way or what? Who knows? I don't think
Who
I
knows,
probably didn't know
indeed.
what I was
Yeah.
doing back then.
Yep, yep, exactly. No, I completely agree with you. Well, I mean, it wasn't really into the advent of the internet and then ultimately Zoom that a virtual assistant became even a possibility, right? I mean, if you think
Right.
about it, it's amazing that you're working with somebody who's across the country. I mean, not just across the country, across the world. I'm in California, all of my VAs are in the Philippines, something like a 15, 16-hour time difference. And how would I find them? And to know now that all of my team, and again, I've got almost 20 people that I'm working with on various aspects of my businesses, eh, the fact that they are there making a good living and making such an impact on me and my businesses and my clients and all that stuff is just mind-boggling. But that's true with technology in general.
Well, what did you learn from your experiences that has impacted how you manage the staff, especially one that's spans the globe?
I learned again what my zone of genius is. I'm not a very good manager. I need people to sort of interpret for me. So I when I was creating that business when I was the franchise, and the franchise was growing. or that business was growing within the franchise. I was trying to manage the people and manage the clients, and I realized I don't like that stuff. That's not who I am. So I quickly hired a VA manager who loved that and still loves that. She's still on my team. And it's been phenomenal because I learned I'm not meant to be tracking invoices and, are the VAs doing everything that they do? They have the technology, the clients. That's not where I'm at. And so it was very helpful to learn that. I always joke with my team that I'm constantly saying them, just go build me a house for goodness sake. Just build me a house. And they've learned my style long enough that they're okay, great, we'll build you a house on it, but we need a little bit of input here, How big of a house do you want? How many bedrooms do you want? But how 2 stories, 10 stories, what do you want? Because I realize my zone of genius is coming up with the ideas, and their zone of genius is taking those ideas and implementing it. And that's what the beauty of a good right-hand person can really do for you.
I think everything you said there, especially the way you delegate, I think that actually makes you a fantastic manager because you
I hope
don't
so.
want you don't want a manager who is going to be like, well, I'm not good at this, but I'm gonna do it anyway, and I'm gonna blah blah
Yeah,
blah, and I'm
that's
gonna
a good
tell you.
point.
You leave it to the experts to
Yeah.
do what they do best, and I think that is actually the mark of a really good manager because I
Thank you. I don't always feel that way, but at least I know what I do well and what I don't do well. And that's really, that I think that's the mark, frankly, of maturity too. Getting older, it's one of the nice things. You're not trying to be all things to all people. It's common for women, but I think it's common across the board. When we're young, we want to please everybody. And one of the nice things that I like about getting older is that I know much more clearly who I am. I'm, discovering what my zone of genius is. I'm staying in my zone of genius, and I'm letting other people do their zone of genius. And it's a powerful talk about, win-win-win solution. It's a powerful effect. I've got many people on my team that over the years I've just seen blossom and really become different um, for that work and love it and discover their own sense of genius. And it's just it's a powerful thing.
well, let me ask you, how does reclaiming like 10 to 15 hours a week or whatever it is that you reclaim by having VAs who are picking up where you might not be as good. How does that benefit you from a growth standpoint and even like a quality of life standpoint? That must give you more time for other things too, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, it was so game changing. So I hired my VA and I quickly reclaimed between 10 and 15 hours per week. The financial result is I doubled and then ultimately tripled my revenue, which was nice because I was doing the things that were revenue producing that only I could do. I fell in love with my business again because I loved what I was doing again. Clients can sense that. They can sense if you're just dialing it in or if you're like, okay, now, and then you're thinking about all those awful things that you don't want to do. So that helped a lot. It also helped that I could choose. Did I want to use that reclaimed time to spend time with my son? I mean, I wanted to, at the time, I think he was 9 or 10, and I wanted to go on field trips with him, and I wanted to, be there for him when he needed me. So could I do that? Could I go on vacations with my family? Or did I wanna double down and do even more of the work that I loved? And that's what I find the beauty of having that right person does for you. It's such a powerful thing.
And what do you do? So one thing that I keep overlooking to ask, what do you do about those who are seeking out your help to get a virtual assistant or maybe more than one, who knows the situation? but they're still clinging on and they're still trying to do it all. Do you ever run into situations
I think
like
every
that?
single client I have is like that. They're like, "I know I need somebody, but it's just easier for me to do it. I'll just do it myself. I don't have time to train." And to be sure, I think the first couple of weeks of once you've found that VA is very difficult because you have to learn how to work together and you have to learn how to delegate and to for you guys to trust each other. Now we've got a phenomenal delegation program process that helps people when they hire their VA. But I think that's the big thing and that's the big mentality. It's only when they get so frustrated that and so upset by all the work they're doing that's not in their zone of genius that they start to think, you know what? Maybe there's a better way to do things. And that's when I love having conversations with people. Get on my calendar. Go to virtuallyaligned. Take a look at our website. Take a look to see what's out there. Take a look to get a sense of what we can do. We'll get on a call. We'll have a conversation. What does life look like? What are some of the things that you want to do more of? What are the things you don't want to do anymore? And let's find out. And then, with that, my team will send you a phenomenal job description. And we tell people, take that job description, go shop it to Fiverr or Upwork or something else like that, and go check that out, and you'll see what we see every single time we post a job description. We get between 600 and 900 applicants. Do you have time to go through 600 to 900 applicants? No, I don't think you do, nor should you, because that's not your zone of genius. Instead, we've got some wonderful processes and really help people so that the hardest part of the entire process is interviewing and choosing among the top 2 to 4 candidates of people that we've already screened for you. And so
All those
that's their zone of
applicants.
genius. Yeah, it's
That
amazing.
sounds like that sounds like a job for AI more than anything from where
Well,
I'm
but
sitting.
AI that misses that human quality, right? I mean, AI is phenomenal, and AI is our best friend. I tell all my VAs that, and they love AI as a great starting point. But then, okay, so you screen out, but you're still down to 50 or 75, So how do you choose from those? And that's we do it all for you. It's turnkey. Prove the job description. Next thing you know, you're interviewing top candidates, and only typically 2 to 3, sometimes 4.
You actually did a really good job of segueing into how people can find you and how they can reach you. Is there anything else that you want to add to what you just told us? Because that was a lot of great information.
Just check out our website. Thank you. Yeah, check out our website. Get a sense of us. Get on my calendar. Happy to talk through what you're going through, who you are. Happy to give you that job description. Love to do that. And again, I think what you'll find is that my team does a really good job of synthesizing who you are and what you're looking for. It also helps you or any of our potential clients to really think through and add to that. And then, I can guarantee you virtually everybody is going on to to Fiverr or Upwork and trying to find that person and realizing, I don't have time for this. And so they come back to us and say, you know what? Find it for me. You do it for me. So that's great.
Well, apparently, one of your other zones of genius is streamlining our conversation. I think you just saved us like 3 or 4 minutes of time. So,
Great.
uh,
Well, that wasn't
so
on purpose. I just got it used to efficiencies.
no, that was fantastic. It does leave a little bit of time to just ask, is there anything else as far as Zone of Genius or anything else that we left off the table that you want to add on our way out?
No, just know that it's possible. Don't be the bottleneck of your company. Don't be the reason that you're not growing or that you're not enjoying your work. When that happens, it's usually because you're trying to have every decision run through you or you're trying to micromanage, to your point earlier about micromanagement. When that happens, get yourself the ideal virtual assistant. so that you can focus on the things that you're good at and make a difference in their lives because they've got now a wonderful paying job that they love and they get to partner with you.
Well, I keep getting tongue tied. Anna Brambilla, because I
Right.
want to say it right. Thank you, and hopefully I said it right. Thank you for being on Mark My Words today. This was amazing and educational. I had a blast.
I did too. Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciated it.
Alrighty, well, I am your host, Mark Schmidt, and thanks again to Anna for being here, taking time out of her day. You just listened to Mark My Words. I will see you soon on the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to go on a journey with me into entrepreneurship and life on Mark My Words. If you would like to learn more about me and the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt or connect with me on Instagram at Nimrod79. Video episodes of Mark My Words, as well as other content, can also be found on the Mark My Words YouTube page. Entrepreneurship can be quite the roller coaster ride. It can be a bit isolating and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's meet here next time at the crossroads on another episode of Mark My Words.